What's up guys, welcome back. Today we're back in the kitchen with another quick, easy, and inexpensive dinner recipe. I'll be showing you how to make garlic butter steak bites. This is a meal I used to make all the time when I was on the keto diet a while back, but today we're using real rice instead of cauliflower rice. We're also pairing this with some asparagus and some mushrooms, and the star of the show, which is this delicious garlic butter sauce. But before we get into that, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell to enable notifications as well. All right guys, meet me in the kitchen, let's make it happen. First things first, let's talk about this steak. I know I said inexpensive and this looks like filet mignon because it is, but I actually caught this on sale today. So what I will say to you is always pick whatever steak your butcher has on sale. Lucky for me, it was filet today. We also have plenty of garlic. We have onion, asparagus, mushrooms, a little freshly diced rosemary. We have some garlic olive oil. You can use whatever olive oil you have, but this is what we're going with today. 1 cup of basmati rice and plenty of butter. Don't tell my heart doctor. All right, so it's important to always wash your rice. My favorite way to do that is with one of these strainers. Just rinse it until the water runs clear and then simply cook it per package instructions. All right, so again, guys, today we have filet mignon, but you can use whatever steak that it's on sale at your local store. We're gonna cut this into bite-sized pieces. You can do this with a New York strip, which is what I typically use, but they were super expensive today. Ribeye works well, sirloin is a good cut. Just try to cut against the grain if you can. And just cut them into nice bite-sized pieces, maybe about 1 inch or so. There's a couple big ones, no big deal. You can add whatever vegetables you want to this as well to kind of fill yourself up a little bit more, give it a little bit more body. That's why the mushrooms are good for this recipe. This is about 1 pound of steak in total, so this should be enough for about 4 servings, especially with the vegetables and the rice. We're just gonna slice these into bite-sized pieces, season them up, and then set them aside and prep the rest of our veggies. Now as for the seasoning, we're gonna keep it nice and simple with my all-purpose seasoning. If you don't have this, guys, use whatever your favorite all-purpose seasoning is, or a simple blend of salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder, stuff like that'll work fine. Or if you got like a steak seasoning at home that you like, that'll work here as well. My seasoning is low sodium, so I'm gonna add a little bit of extra salt to the party, just to make sure this steak is seasoned properly. Get in there with your hands and make sure everything is nicely coated. And then we'll set this aside and give that seasoning some time to penetrate the steak while we prep our veggies. All right, so here's what we got for our veggies and herbs. We got the garlic, the rosemary. We're gonna prep the asparagus and give the mushrooms a rough chop as well. We already went ahead and diced up our onion to make things a little bit easier on us. You can use whatever mushrooms you like. Bella would work, white. Today we're using shiitake. Just give them a real rough chop. They'll cook down a little bit as well. About like so. You want them to be kind of similar in size to your steak. That way everything fits on the fork together. There we go. It's about 8 ounces of mushrooms. We've already cut the stems off of our asparagus. And we're gonna cut these on a bias just for presentation purposes. That just basically means at an angle like you see here. Try to leave the tips intact because that's what's gonna look the best on the plate. And we're gonna parboil or pre-cook the asparagus just to make things flow a little bit easier for us, which basically means we're just gonna boil it in a little salted water here in just a second. All right, so to pre-cook or blanch the asparagus, we're gonna bring some water up to a boil, add a couple teaspoons of salt just to season the asparagus a little bit. Once your water is up to a boil, we're gonna drop the asparagus in there for about a minute, maybe 90 seconds or so, just to pre-cook them. That way the cooking process is a little bit faster when we add them to the skillet a little bit later. And then we're gonna shock them in some ice cold water. That's gonna stop the cooking process, keep them nice and green. So after about 2 minutes, we're gonna get in there and scoop it out. And then shock it right into that ice cold water. You can do this in advance, a couple days in advance, and put some of it in the fridge, and then you have asparagus whenever you want to add it to a stir fry or anything like that. This works for a lot of vegetables, broccoli, broccolini, green beans, anything like that will work. So at this point, it's time to go ahead and cook this steak. So what we're gonna do is warm our skillet over medium-high heat. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of avocado oil and 1 tablespoon of garlic infused olive oil. Again, guys, that's optional, but we're trying to get some garlic flavor in here. There we go. Once your skillet is smoking hot, we're going in with that steak. Make sure you press down for maximum surface area contact. Even though they're steak bites, we still want to make sure there's a nice crust on there. These bad boys are only going to take about a minute per side. Once we get the color we're looking for, we're going to remove the steak and add them back to the party a little bit later. So after about a minute at high heat, you should have a nice sear on your steak like so. That's what you want to see. And then we'll start to flip them over. Beautiful crust on this filet. Remember, guys, crust is for texture, flavor, and color. Don't skip this step. So once you have a beautiful color like this, we're gonna take our slotted spoon and remove the steak, leaving behind all that flavor in the skillet to season up our veggies. No flavor left behind, guys. For the most part, this is a 1-pot meal minus, the asparagus and the rice. But technically, you could cook the asparagus in the same skillet. It just takes a little bit longer. You know it's a quick and easy recipe when the longest part of the process is cooking the rice. All right, so now, my friends, you can see tons of fond and flavor in the bottom of the skillet. We're gonna go ahead and add our onion right on in there. Give that a second, and then we'll add our garlic. Can't forget the mushrooms, unless, of course, you don't like mushrooms, and I'm sure you'll tell me about that in the comments section. I'm now gonna add 3 tablespoons of butter, because butter makes everything better. Give that a mix. Allow those onions to start to cook down, the mushrooms to absorb all that flavor. Oh man, it's smelling good already. Once the onions and the mushrooms are about half the way done, we'll add in that garlic. We don't want the garlic to burn. We can start adding a little seasoning though. So I'm going in with a little all-purpose and some red pepper flakes. Red pepper flakes are optional, guys, for those of you that don't want any heat, no big deal. We're also gonna add about a teaspoon of worst word in the world sauce. Now it's time to go in with that garlic. Remember, we used the garlic infused olive oil. We're also going in with probably 1.5 tablespoons of freshly diced garlic. Your house is immediately gonna be smelling amazing as soon as that garlic hits the skillet. Now I'm going in with about 1.5 tablespoons of freshly diced rosemary. You can use some thyme for this as well. If you don't have fresh, you can use dried rosemary also. Rosemary pairs beautifully with steak, so it works real well for this recipe also. And now we're gonna go ahead and add in the asparagus that's already partially cooked, just to speed up the process. As you can see, the asparagus really maintained that bright green color, which is what you want to see. The last little flavor enhancer we're gonna add is a little beef bouillon. This is gonna beef up the beef flavor. Sorry guys, I couldn't resist. Just a pinch of that. Last but not least, my friends, we're gonna go ahead and deglaze the skillet with a little red wine, preferably something dry like a Merlot or a Cabernet, about 1.5 cups of that. If you don't want to use wine, you can use beef broth. Make sure you save enough for yourself. And just allow that to simmer for a few minutes. The alcohol will start to cook off, leaving behind that nice wine flavor. Again, guys, you can use beef broth or beef stock in place of that. All right, so I'm gonna add about 1/2 cup of beef broth just to thin things out a little bit. give us a little more sauce to work with and just bring everything together. Oh man, that's looking good. Now that that's back up to a simmer, we're gonna go ahead and add back in our steak and any accumulated juices, along with a nice pinch of fresh parsley. Give that a mix and you got yourself some steak bites with a delicious garlic butter sauce, a little red wine, little mushrooms. Oh man. Let's let the steak finish cooking in there for about a minute or so and you're good to go. At the very end, you want to add a little cold butter. This is going to help thicken the sauce up a bit. A little bit of black pepper. And now it's time to plate this up over some rice. And now it's time to plate this up. We got a nice mound of rice. We got some asparagus, mushrooms. I'm gonna add some sauce around it. And of course a little bit on top too, because why the hell not? This is the part where I say, brace yourself for a trademark money shot. Say it with me, guys. Looking good. Dinner in less than 30 minutes, you can't beat that. The only thing I need is my fork. But before we dig in, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell to enable notifications as well. All right, guys, I found my fork, and now it is time for the moment of truth. We got a little rice, we got some steak. I'll throw a little mushroom in the mix for health. Cheers, people.